And thank you for joining us for Unprecedented as we take a look at our unexpected reality here in 2020. From wearing masks when necessary to the everyday phrase of social distancing. Our world has been turned on its head since the COVID-19 pandemic began spreading across our world. The first case of the novel coronavirus is believed to have been contracted in December of 2019 in a wet market in Wuhan, China. What was deemed the Wuhan coronavirus killed nearly 5,000 people in the country as it also spread to every populated continent on the globe, reaching North America on January 21st. It wouldn't be until March 11th that COVID-19 would be declared a pandemic. The middle of March is when we saw billion-dollar industries come to a screeching halt, and since then, lots of local change has been made as well. Not only was the pandemic declared on March 11th, but that also marked the fateful day for many sports industries right across the globe. After a positive test of COVID-19 during an NBA game, professional basketball, hockey, and baseball were all forced to suspend their current or upcoming seasons. Now, the whirlwind 24 hours also touched down here locally as the upcoming World Women's Curling Championships was forced to be canceled after months of anticipation.
Not 1 hour after the World Curling Federation canceled the World Women's Curling Championships, crews were wrapping up the cables, getting ready to go home.
Obviously, it's with great disappointment we make this announcement today, but it's, in our opinion, the right decision, and we want to thank Northern Health, the province, the City of Prince George, Curling Canada, our partners in delivering this event for their collaboration in putting the event on, first of all, and now in today's decision.
Prince George is about to host the 2020 World Women's Curling Championships.
For Mayor Lynn Hall, who has sought major events since the Canada Winter Games, this is a huge blow.
Since 2015, we talked about being able to host world-class games, and we've had the fortunate opportunity to be able to do that. So it was an exciting time to make the announcement, and today is just the opposite. It's a very, very sad time. But we understand the decision, and as I said, we're certainly supportive of the decision that the World Curling Federation has made.
The following week saw major industries like sports, tourism, and entertainment roll out severe precautions as elected officials decided to take drastic steps to help stop the spread of COVID-19.
The day started with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau setting the scene with this announcement.
We will be denying entry to Canada to people who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents. This measure will carve out some designated exceptions, including for air crews, diplomats, immediate family members of Canadian citizens, and, at this time, U.S. citizens.
In addition to closing the doors, Canadians abroad who show symptoms of the virus will not be allowed to return home, and the airlines themselves will be tasked with monitoring for the virus. The federal government has also committed to financially helping those who cannot return. The exclusion of U.S. travelers from the ban was upsetting to BC's Health Minister Adrian Dix.
It's our strong view and it's our strong message that visitors from the United States not come to British Columbia, don't come, because at this moment, that is the wrong thing to do. We understand that people are being asked to self-isolate, but better than self-isolate for visitors is not to come.
By the time COVID-19 was actually declared a pandemic, BC had only 46 cases to its name, and all of Canada was seeing just 110. The rapid spread of panic, now that was more common in Canada as we saw strange shopping trends arise.
All over the world, people stocking up on things like toilet paper and hand sanitizer in light of COVID-19 continuing to spread. Even some jokes like this one in the UK, where rolls of toilet paper are in a claw game. In Prince George, people have started following suit, totally clearing the local superstore and drastically depleting the regular stock at Costco.
Honestly, I think it's kind of a joke.
I think it's crazy because what are you going to do with all the paper towels or toilet paper? What are you going to do with it all?
With locals starting to stock up, it's meant department stores have had to be prepared as well. And even though it's not quite to the level of some larger centers, PG stores are staying up to date to make sure supplies are available.
We're looking at orders every day, and as we see an uptick on some things that customers are wanting, we're making sure that we're not only rebuying to take care of filling our shelves, but make sure we've got enough for the future no matter what might happen.
So far, it's primarily been personal hygiene or cleaning supplies being stocked up on.
It's good for the toilet paper manufacturers.
I mean, if it was really an issue, I would say they'd probably want to stock up on food or water first before toilet paper.
But while it obviously does make sense to some people, others still are not so sure.
You're only going to be in there, they say, isolation for 14 days. Do you need that much toilet paper?
And we haven't had any cases yet in Prince George.
But it doesn't matter. You still have to, but washing your hands just like you're supposed to do with soap and water.
Do I believe that there should be a reason for every single family to stock up? I'm going to cautiously say, you know what, everybody's got to make their own decision. What we want to do is make sure we can take care of people for whatever they might need.
Matt Fatinko, CKPG News.
The introduction of travel restrictions hit the airline industry incredibly hard in March, and its effects continue right until this day. As the industry returns to a somewhat normal, the CEO of Prince George's Airport is confident that COVID-19 will leave an impact on their industry like only one other event in our history has.
We regret to inform you that this flight has been delayed.
An empty terminal at Prince George Airport. An eerie sound of the reality of things, says CEO Gordon Duke, as daily operations have been drastically impacted due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
As the situation has evolved, we've moved into a work from home and staggered work schedule for our management team and the administration team, and then our operational frontline folks that are maintaining the safety and security of the airport. We're looking, as their activity levels drop, we're looking at the tasks that they have to do planned for later on in the summer and moving it ahead to make sure that they're staying busy and that we are, as an airport, we're fully ready to go when we return to normal operations.
With decades of experience in the aviation industry, Duke admits this is a very troubling time for air travel, adding the industry has never seen anything like this.
We talk about pre-9/11 and after 9/11. We will now look at this in terms of pre-Corona-19 and post-COVID-19. It is having an impact probably larger than 9/11.
As changes to our daily lives came about, most residents in the north channeled that welcoming spirit of theirs to help one another. Several businesses started opening early to accommodate those most vulnerable, and they limited numbers within the store. But unfortunately, not everyone was on board with the changes. This was the unfortunate scene one morning in April at the TD Bank next to Pine Center Mall. Witnesses say a man was frustrated with having to wait outside and decided to cause a disturbance by coughing on and licking the door to the bank. The video was posted to social media and quickly went viral as RCMP investigated if the man had actually broken any laws. Definitely a shocking sight and a rarity, as so many other Northerners have been graceful during these times. After the break, we'll shift our focus to schooling as we take a look at how COVID-19 impacted education and graduation. Welcome back to Unprecedented. When BC students went on spring break in the middle of March, no one could have expected that that was the start of a 2-month hiatus from in-person learning. Education switched online in both April and May, and then in June, students were given the option to return to class. Reduced capacities kept the final few weeks of the school year safe, as everyone was offered a loose template as to what education may look like come September.
This week has marked the final week of the school year. Past few months have been an incredible roller coaster ride for teachers and a struggle for parents. Despite optional in-class learning coming back earlier in June, there's still a sense of worry by parents as for what is ahead come September.
This unknown is probably the biggest stressor. I think people have realized that there's been no outbreaks of COVID in our schools. We've been really lucky. So I think people are starting to feel safer about the fact that they can send their kids back to school. But it's not as simple as, is it safe to send my child, right? As I mentioned previously, there's There's so much more to this.
As for the teachers, feelings are much the same.
The entire return to work since March 30th has been an absolute roller coaster of change, and that has been one of the most difficult things for teachers to be dealing with is the constant change. Even the fact that we have children back in our classrooms was a change, because when we returned and even into the beginning of May, it was never expected that we'd have children in our classrooms the rest of this year.
The Parents Advisory Council admits it's been an instance of realization and arguably newfound respect for our educators as parents took on the challenge of balancing their usual lives with also handling at-home learning. The Teachers Association hopes the past 3.5 months have demonstrated the value in our teachers.
I would really hope that there is more of a reflection on the work that we do, but it's not just on the work that we do and the work that we supported with parents in their home, but I'd like people to really recognize that we turned around on a dime and created an online program that no one expected, not everyone was comfortable with, but everybody did, and from what I've been told, did successfully.
Teachers likely won't receive an update on a full return to school plan until the end of August, with the current back-to-school date marked as September 8th. Ethan Reddy, CKPG News.
As education took a hit, so did the celebrations associated with graduation. But after much consideration, a couple local schools put a unique spin on the special day.
An exciting moment for graduating high school students Saturday as they got to do an alternative to the classic walking the stage. We'll start at PGSS, where there was a drive-through grad. Cars and trucks dolled up with school spirit to celebrate the day, students going all out for a moment they thought wouldn't even happen.
I'm a little bit sad that I don't get to have the traditional walk across the stage, but it's still pretty cool to be able to say that I got to do something different. And I'm going to be able to say that I graduated during a pandemic, so it's all pretty good.
Meanwhile, over at DP Todd, a different kind of celebration.
Yeah, there you go.
Dry Grad organizers putting together an event where graduates could get commemorative signs and pictures and a parade to follow. But it didn't come together without some hitches.
There was a lot of tears, and we had to come up, we had to use our imagination, because in this day and age with all the social distancing and everything, we wanted it to be safe, but we wanted it to be fun, and we wanted it to be different.
You want to strike a pose?
That effort paying off in spades for the grads, appreciative of the work put into finding the light at the end of the tunnel.
It means a lot to us so we can move forward with our lives and still have all the memories that most people have as you get to the end of high school, and just makes all the years worth it. And yeah, it's a really positive outcome, so we're really thankful.
Thankful that while their year was cut short, their dreams were not. Matt Fatinko, CKPG News.
Certainly a unique experience for the class of 2020. When we come back, we'll switch our attention to the sports scene, which has been relatively quiet since COVID-19 began, both on the professional level and here locally. After every major sports league in North America pressed pause on March 11th and 12th, the trickle-down effect quickly began. The BCHL was just getting set to begin round 2 of the playoffs when they had to cancel the rest of their season. And for the WHL and the Cougars, just a handful of games remained.
He'll flip it out to center, glove down, and banking it back in is Armstrong, racing after it. Center scores!
The season is officially over for the Prince George Cougars, as the WHL made the announcement of the regular season officially being canceled.
So we're not surprised by the news. I would say we're all very unhappy that it's come to this, but also at the same time feeling really good that everybody's making the right decisions and doing what we can do to try and help out.
All of the league's teams made the decision via a conference call Tuesday morning.
It was very somber, but also very matter of fact, and I think what everybody's interested in doing is taking a look at the future, planning for the future already, facing the reality of today, but also being optimistic and as encouraging to each other as possible, that saying, we'll get through this together. It's not a good situation. This is terrible for teams.
Since then, every league, team, and local organization has had to work out a return to play plan in hopes of getting back in action. Unfortunately, the nature of university sports creates a tricky situation, and that led to U Sports canceling its fall schedules in early June, which included UNBC's soccer seasons. Both the men's and women's team will be forced to take this year off from competition while still remaining eligible for athletic financial aid. The jury is still out on the two-term sports, such as basketball, who currently have to wait until at least January before they can begin play.
Basketball schedule has been postponed till January with an October deadline from Canada West to make that decision. So, basketball has a little bit more time to look at what they may or may want to do in terms of their student athletes coming back to campus.
So we'll keep our fingers crossed that there's a return to local sports somewhat soon. We'll step away for our final break now. When we come back, a look at the positive work being done in our community during these difficult times and hear from a survivor of the virus. While these times have certainly been unprecedented, they've also shown the best of our region, as many individuals have found unique ways to come together while staying apart. As the pandemic pressures picked up across the province, nightly cheers for our frontline workers became commonplace. In Vancouver, appreciative residents banged pots and pans every night at 7, while in Prince George, the hospital parking lot became the place to be every night, as car parades and Indigenous drummers would pass through, thanking our healthcare workers and first responders for their work. Those parades spawned a new way to celebrate as well, as a group of local volunteers organized more than 500 drive-by celebrations, as many birthday parties took on a new life due to COVID-19 precautions. Other signs of positivity in our city came when Nest Lake Bible Camp's Dave Horton decided to start hosting movie and trivia nights in parking lots after being laid off due to the virus. Horton did his best to keep spirits up during the height of the pandemic.
I have the 1968 Trivial Pursuit Genius Edition.
And let's not forget when Prince George's Mattia Tiani ran her own version of the Boston Marathon in town after she qualified for the 42.2 kilometer race that eventually got canceled. She not only ran locally, finishing in front of family and friends, but she also raised more than $1,500 for Autism Speaks Canada. It has been great to see our community go above and beyond to help one another out. But the biggest positive during this pandemic is how safety precautions in the north have kept a vast majority of us safe. Northern Health has seen the fewest cases per health region, but that still means that dozens of Northerners have had to fight the virus. And for Karen Sawakowicz, it was no easy battle.
People think it's a hoax, and it was just a flu. And I'm sorry, but it was more than a flu. I seriously thought I was gonna die.
The past 3 months have been nothing short of a roller coaster ride for Karen Sawakowicz. Back in March, the 48-year-old began experiencing a fever and a bad cough. Within weeks, she tested positive for COVID-19.
When I was in emergency, the doctor was like, "What do you want to do?" He's asking me, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I've been sick since March. I just want to feel better."
She was put into the hospital still experiencing shortness of breath and placed on prednisone, a drug mostly used to suppress the immune system and decrease inflammation.
And it's like, I'm just sitting here thinking that I wanted to be better. And it just doesn't seem like I am getting better. I just want to get back to my normal living again.
To this day, Karen has no idea where she contracted the virus, admitting that she has an autoimmune disease in her lungs, so she was getting herself prepared before she was even sick.
Well, then the week after, it hit me, and it hit me hard, and it was like, oh, I don't feel good, and then it was like 4 days or something, and it was just like, it hit me hard.
Meanwhile, her boyfriend Eric had experienced mild symptoms but had recovered relatively quickly. He admits this whole ordeal has been nerve-wracking.
It's a mixture of being terrified that you're going to lose someone you love, and then, feelings of hope and then being scared again, and it's up and down.
Fortunately, Karen's past 3 tests have all come back negative and is considered to be in recovery. Both Karen and Eric urge the public to adhere to the provincial health office's mandates so no one has to experience what they've had to go through. Ethan Reddy, CKPG News.
So this is where we stand now. Prince George, the province, and the rest of the planet continuing to grapple with this unprecedented and unbelievable sickness. Continue to remember the importance of wearing a mask, social distancing, and keeping your bubble small. And in the wise words of our provincial health officer, always be kind, be calm, and be safe.